This right here was what you call an impulse buy. As you can imagine, I didn't really go out to the swap meet intending to bring something home like this, but the price was right. And when the price is right, my wallet gets light. Now, I haven't quite decoded the year exactly, but it's like 1966 through 1972, somewhere around there. That's the range of these odd looking little motors. It's not going to win any shows for, original paint, but beggars can't be choosers. And we chose to spend $40 on this beast. Now, aside from the flaky paint up top, the rest of the motor is actually in pretty nice shape. I mean, heck, look at that prop. That's in good shape. Supposedly the owner even said, oh heck, the bottom end was redone on it. So it didn't happen on film, but last year I threw some gas in it. Sort of got it to fire up. I don't think it would keep running, and I don't think it was actually spraying water either. So that, relegated it to the back of the barn where it sat until now. And we need the project because I need a motor in like, T-minus 5 days. And of course, there's no minute like the last minute to start working on a project. So we're going to try and get this seahorse to finish the race and get it running and operational in time. I like how this was back at the time. I guess, back in the 50s, they just went straight 10 horse because there was no horsepower limitations. And at some point, they went to 9.5, I guess after the 10 horse stage. And then, you had to get that extra 0.499 horsepower out of them, so they were the 9.9, because that makes a big difference. So anyways, you pull the cover off, and there's still actually some original foam in there, not in the best of shape. But yeah, for the price, I couldn't walk by this. So, in my opinion, it's kind of an odd looking motor. It's kind of short and squatty. It's got this low profile on the top here compared to where it mounts on the transom. And it's kind of just wide and, yeah, a little bit top heavy looking. But there's actually some pretty cool features on this motor. Like, it's got the shift lever here all the way up at the front. Now, they've actually done this on some of the later model OMCs. Went away from the side shifter here that always gets broken, when this thing's laying on its side in the back of the truck rattling around. And the other cool thing is they've got dual carrying handles. One here for carrying upright, and then they've also got the one down there, for carrying it horizontal. And you also have the handle that folds down extra far. Well, if I can figure out how to use it. Oh yeah, there we go. Well, I thought I had it figured out. There we go. Yeah, the handle folds down for easy transport. So I've got a little 12-foot boat that doesn't have a motor, and it was also a cheap one. And this motor will go perfect on that. So we didn't come completely unprepared into this thrash fest. We actually ordered some parts ahead of time. So I got a new water pump impeller, and I also got a carb kit, which has the float, needle and seat and all that good stuff. It was actually pretty cheap to get the real deal OEM rebuild kit. So yeah, we spent a couple of bucks. Don't worry, not too many. Well, crap. This motor must have been hanging around too many mercuries, because the wiring is self-destructing there. I mean, luckily that's only the kill switch, so, who needs to stop? But we might actually have to fix that. Crap. I thought the wiring was going to be pretty mint on this. I'm a little bit concerned now because I see that it's got, set point gap here on top of the flywheel, so it's a points motor, and a lot of times those old coils, they end up kind of cracking and disintegrating and shorting out and misfiring. So, well, we'll find out if we need a new set of those pretty quick. And I gotta say, I really appreciate the carburetor being right up on top here. I mean, half the time you're going into a archaeological dig to try and get the carburetor out of the front of the motor. And here you go, it's all right in the back. I'm kind of liking this motor more and more. Well, the flywheel put up a little bit of a fight, but we got it. And actually kind of pleasantly surprised. It almost looks like somebody's been in here before. Those coils look too nice to be originals. I mean, I'm slightly concerned about the Christmas colored theme we got going here. So there's definitely two different eras or brands of coil, but, you know, what the heck. Well, when you're driving, that's the port side, that's the starboard, so they match. So I guess it's all good. And while we're in here, we'll set those points to 20 thou and maybe put a little tiny drop of oil on them felts in there. Well, that little end cap on the wire doesn't look factory, so yeah, I'd say somebody's been in here and replaced both coils and the condensers. Heck, maybe even the points too. That's pretty awesome. So it looks like by that little M, I'm guessing those are actually OEM points. And they're set right on the 20. I love how many mechanical linkages and pivot points there are. Like you've got a roller that pushes on the lever for the carb. You know, there's like 3 moving things. Runs through a transfer shaft over to the throttle case, you know, the main throttle shaft. The choke has all these linkages. I mean, it's pretty, I like it. It's like a steam engine. You can see all the external moving parts. This fuel pump's been staring at me because I don't have any parts for it. Why do I have a bad feeling that's what it's going to end up needing? Well, 4 bolts later and the bottom fell out pretty easy. So we got the water pump housing pulled off. There's a little bit of corrosion in there. Nothing crazy. And sure enough, the water pump impeller really doesn't look bad. It's actually really still flexible. It's not that old. And to, you know, and to take the cake, it's an actual OMC part. Well, now I'm kind of torn. You know, do you put in the good quality part that's used, or do you go with the aftermarket that, you know, I'm sure it'll work for a while, but I bet you get more life out of this in the long run. No water in the oil, but man, it smells like the 70s. Well, we slept on it, and the decision is in with the old, out with the new. Almost forgot to pull the prop off and clean any fishing line out of there. Always got to remember to do that. Unless you just don't want to know, and in that case, ignorance is bliss and leave it on there. I tell you what, this thing's mint. No fishing line. And I can't believe how good a shape that prop is. I'm sure we can fix that though with a couple of stumps and maybe a rock. Well, thus far, I mean, we haven't gotten to the bottom of the black lagoon there to see what's in the very bottom of the carb. But I'm surprised at the condition of the float. It's not bad. Like everything else with this motor. I mean, I'm kind of surprised at the condition. Of course, the best way to avoid having to rebuild a carburetor and use new parts is to already have purchased those parts. You know, that's about a guarantee. So I'm sure I probably already defaced the packages enough that I can't return them. Figures. Yep, carburetor wasn't too bad in the bottom. And heck, we were even thinking that these old fuel lines were actually maybe going to hold up. They're still soft. Well, we went to remove it, and you can see there, yeah, it pretty much started to crumble. So we'll stick with the original plan and put the kit in it and put all new fuel lines in here. Well, in the end, we couldn't bring ourselves to open up that brand new carburetor kit because the internals of the carb actually weren't, you know, unusable in my opinion. So, you know, reduce, reuse, recycle. So there's a couple little E-clips holding in the carburetor adjustment for low speed. Of course, I lost one when I was trying to put it together. Spent about 15 minutes looking around on the floor for it in the motor, gave up, dug through the box, found a replacement, and in the process of installing the new clip, I must have jiggled something around, because as soon as it snapped into place, I heard ting ting ting, and out fell the other one from somewhere. So yeah, that went about 15 minutes. Pulled the fuel pump off, and I believe there's supposed to be a gasket sitting in here. And where that thing sits and picks up the impulse from the crankcase. So it looks like we will have to actually break down and open up the repair kit for the fuel pump, since we're going to try and put that gasket back in there. Now, I usually try and avoid buying any parts unless I absolutely have to, and if I know that the carburetor or fuel pump needs it. Well, in this case, since we're on a time crunch, I had to order everything ahead of time, because there'd be no way to have it done in case I did need it, because we're leaving in like less than 48 hours and I still haven't even tried to test fire the motor yet. Well, this little fuel pump's a surprisingly complicated one. There's like multi-levels of little springs and plastic like pads and stuff, and you can tell the diaphragm there is pretty stiff, so I'd say there was a good chance that this thing wasn't going to work, or wasn't going to work very well. I mean, not often do I have to lay out a comparison guide to the gaskets and stuff, but man, this is a tough one. Even the spark plug's in good condition. There it is, back in order. Now we just need some water to test it. Seems to be plenty of that lately. Well, we didn't get those wires fixed yet, but you know, we're going to try and fire it up anyways. Got some fuel. We'll get her primed up here and see what happens. Well, there's no immediate fuel leaks. That's a good sign. It helps out with fuel economy too. Alright. Guess we'll give it some choke. Don't know where we're at on the low speed yet. We'll figure that out. It's got a little bit of throttle. Watch your fingers on this. Well, it's a little bit smoky, but you can't fault it for that. Seems to run half decent. We tried getting the low idle dialed in. It's fairly close. Gonna have to actually get it out on the lake and put a load on it to really get the final tuning done.